Hello again. Nice to see you all. Thanks for joining me. It's a chinwag. Chinwag. I know the girls across the pond. What does chinwag mean? Just means a chat. A general chit chat. And in my episode this week, I've got a chit chat about the plants, photosynthesis, and how that, a bit more about that. Pete does a little piece of reminiscing when he was a lad. And Mum does a little bit of reminiscing too about when she played the piano in the pub. And I do a little bit of reminiscing actually on behalf of Pete's mum. And also I'm going to show you a bag that I've made. A long time ago I made it, but the pattern's still available on Alice Caroline. And I'm going to talk about a place that I love to visit, called oh, what's it called? You know it better than I do now. Anyway, it'll come to me. Goodnestone Park. And the reason I love Goodnestone, well, we'll get into that when I talk about it. So, I live in the southeast of England with my husband Pete, my 4 chickens, and it's the most glorious day. It's windy. We've had quite a bit of wind, not too strong, but just enough to, stop you enjoying the sunshine. But never mind, it is sunny and it's lovely and warm in our conservatory. So where should we start? Well, shall I start by a little bit of crafting? I want to show you a bag I made. I made several of them. Yeah, several of my family have got them and several friends. Every Saturday Mum comes round for the day and she brings her slippers, a box of biscuits, any notes she's got, a shopping list, whatever. And it's all in the bag. It's called the Anna bag. And she has got two patterns. When I bought mine, it was just squares, but she also has the pattern showing you how to make it out of small hexes, which might be nice because actually I've got a whole box of hexes that I've made from Liberty. So yes, I might consider doing that when I looked this morning. Here it is. And she shows you how to do the squares so you don't have to line them all up. They all line up exactly because you sew them with a seam. And then you put a pleat in which gives you the, nice roominess. Plain on the back. She also does a pattern if you wanted to do it just plain on the front and plain on the back. And then inside, she's put a pocket. But really the pocket I find is too near the top. Unless you put a popper there. You could do, couldn't you? I mean, I've got a little mirror. Liberty one that I pop in there. But yeah, it's up to you, obviously, whether you put that pocket in. But if you wanted to make it easy for yourself, it doesn't, well, see how you feel. So it's a plain back. And then, as I say, these squares line up beautifully and you've got so you can get a lot in there. You really can because it puffs right out. Yeah, so I thought I'd show you that. Alice Caroline, and it's called the Anna bag. And it's very handy because it's not too big. I'll stand up. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's just right. Just right. So I thought I'd share that with you this morning. So I wanted to talk about Goodnestone Park because it's quite near us. We live in the southeast of England. Sort of, we live on the coast, but there's Canterbury, which is quite famous, and Goodnestone Park isn't too far from Canterbury. You go across the fields and you go through the tiniest little village, beautiful houses. When I'm there next, I always feel people live there, so you've got to be a bit careful. But I'm going to try and take some of the windows because they are very, very nice. And Goodnestone Park, I think you've seen if you've watched before, that it's got a beautiful little cafe, and the gentleman there who runs it with his wife, he makes everything from scratch, and it's uncomplicated and very, very tasty. So just to tell you a little bit of history about the place, Brooke Bridges built Goodnestone Park in 1704, not long after he purchased the estate. It was the principal seat of a branch of the Boys family, an eminent Kentish family. Their roots are traceable as far back as the Norman Conquest. The third baronet was also responsible for two of the most significant pieces of family history for Goodnestone Park. The first event was his marriage to Fanny Fowler. Sir Brooke Bridges and Fanny Fowler's daughter Elizabeth provided the next significant event by her marriage to Edward Austen, brother of the famous novelist Jane Austen. Edward and his young wife spent their early married life in a house on the Goodnestone estate, and Jane became a regular guest at the time. And following a stay at Goodnestone Park in 1796, she began writing her first novel, Pride and Prejudice. Edward and Elizabeth's daughter Fanny became one of Jane's favourite correspondents. Well, then in World War II, it was common practice to repurpose stately homes for the war effort, and Goodnestone was no exception and was taken over by the British Army. Some alterations were necessary to accommodate tanks. I just can't imagine what tanks would be like there, as it's so beautiful. It's so beautifully quiet. It's such a peaceful atmosphere. Anyway, they laid concrete surface to the North Drive and Avenue so that the tanks could get up and down. And then Margaret Fitzwater and Brooke Fitzwater took up the massive task of restoring the house and gardens to their former glory after the war. You've got the English country gardens, which I show you in my little film at the end. You've got the beautiful views of the countryside as you approach it and you look out onto, and it's not large by any means. You feel just very much as if you're in a garden and part of this house. But then, of course, you can take the local footpaths, which are all marked, and take the actual walk that Jane Austen used to do. And we plan on doing that. It looks very nice, but we've got to get our walking boots on for that because it's a 3-hour walk. So there we are. I've told you a little bit about Goodnestone and a bit about the Anna bag. So I'm going to put up now the fascinating fact, and I'll see you the other side of that. Plants use a complex process called photosynthesis to extract energy from sunlight to create food. Studies on certain species have revealed that they perform yet another feat. They calculate the optimum rate at which to absorb that food overnight. By day, plants convert atmospheric carbon dioxide into starch and sugars. During the night, they consume the starch stored during the day, avoiding starvation and maintaining growth. They process the stored starch at just the right rate, not too quickly, not too slowly, so that they use about 95% of it by daytime, when they start making more. The findings were based on a plant of the mustard family. Researchers found that this plant carefully rations its food reserves according to the length of the night, no matter whether 8, 12 or 16 hours remained until daytime. It divides the amount of starch available by the length of time remaining until dawn, deciding on the optimal rate of consumption. How do plants determine their starch reserves? How do they measure time? And what mechanisms enables them to do maths? Further research may shed light on these questions. Well, how they do it, how those plants do it, we don't know yet. They're still doing their experiments. So next up is a little piece that I persuaded Pete to tell you about. Yeah, he said he was about 9 or 10. And, he was a baby boomer, born in 1945, January. And there was a lot of kids in his street. I think there was about 20, and they all got up to mischief. It wasn't harmful, it was harmless mischief. But nevertheless, I thought it was quite fun for him to tell you. I've got my own story about Woolworths. And the story I have about Woolworths is when I was about 8, my dentist was right next door to Woolworths, and we used to visit it, obviously regularly. And there was a long, what do you call it, and you could sit and have a coffee and a sticky bun on a high stool. It was very wooden floorboards. The sort of floorboards that you put sawdust on. I mean, there wasn't sawdust, but they were really authentic floorboards. And I just love Woolworths. Everybody loved Woolworths because it was a different kind of shop. All the counters were open. You could pick things up. You could look at them. We couldn't do that in any other shops, just Woolworths. Well, my mum went off to have a little shop, and I was left to wander around. And in Woolworths there was pillars, and they were covered in mirrors, so you could always have a quick look at yourself, make sure you were all right. And they had a joke section, and I remember picking up this joke. It was a tube, and it had "Midnight in Paris" written on it. I thought, oh, I'll have a look at that. Always been inquisitive. And so I took the end off, put it up to my eye. "Midnight in Paris." What a Swiss, I thought. Absolutely nothing. Black. Popped the lid back on to put it on the counter. I went and found my mum, and she said, "What's that on your face, love?" What's that on my face? I went and looked in one of the mirrors, and there, round my eye, was a dark black ring. "Midnight in Paris." So I fell for that one. Anyway, I'll put up Pete's little piece now, and he can tell you his escapade with Woolworths.
There was a little gang of us lived in the road where I was. We used to get up to sort of pranks that we used to go around together. And this particular time, we decided that it might be a good idea to see if we could nick anything from Woolworths.
Nick from Woolworths. Righty-ho.
They used to put things that little boys, young lads, would like toy soldiers, and they were all on these counters. And so anyway, we did. We thought so. We did, and we got away with it until one day we disappeared, and my parents or somebody's parents said, "Where are they all gone?" And the little girl who wanted to come with us, we didn't let. She said, "Oh, they've gone nicking from Woolworths."
And how old was she?
She was about 4.
About 4. So I think it was one of the boys' sisters, wasn't it? And she couldn't go with you.
She couldn't go with us.
So she didn't realise what she was saying. She just heard you say, "We're going nicking from Woolworths."
That's right. So and anyway, so we didn't, we were coming back from our little spree.
Yeah.
And there's my dad and a couple of the others. So, "What you been up to?" And we hadn't got, because what we used to do, we had dug a turf out in the field behind us, and we used to roll the turf back, put the stuff we'd taken in the turf,
like your booty,
and then rolled it back again. Yeah, so nobody knew where it was. And, so
like
my dad,
pirates.
my dad, yeah, like buried treasure it was.
Yeah.
So anyway, Dad, so went a bit bananas, and so he said, "Go and get it." So anyway, I went down to get it, and I threw most of it, a lot of the stuff away.
So you rolled back the...
Yeah, rolled back the turf.
It's
all long grass there, because it's an unkempt field. It was, it'd been just left for donkey's years.
Right.
And so I threw some away and just brought a handful of stuff back, mostly little toy soldiers and stuff. And he marched us off down to Woolworths.
He marched you off to Woolworths.
Yeah, and told them and said there's the stuff and all that. And fortunately, they didn't. They sort of it didn't see a funny side of it because there wasn't really a funny side, but it was kids.
So you gave it back.
We gave,
and that was the end of that.
And that was the end of that.
No more nicking from Woolworths.
No more nicking from Woolworths.
I wonder what the group did.
No.
With all the people in your street. You said there was about 20 of you.
Well, there's 20 kids.
Yeah, I wonder what you did then when you stopped nicking from Woolworths.
We went over the fields. We helped the farmer. We did all sorts of things.
Got up to better things. Yeah.
But it was just one of those.
Yeah.
It was very tempting.
Yeah. But Dad made you take it back. What a
Yeah.
life lesson, eh?
Yeah.
That was a super life lesson. Well, there's one of the reminiscences that's recently come to mind. So we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Well, cheeky boy, eh? I'd like to just tell you a little bit about his mum. You have seen photos before, but she was born at the beginning of June, same as my mum. And it's the Queen's Jubilee this week, isn't it? And there's a picture of Pete's mum. I'll put it up here. When she was just a tiny dot. I think it must have been Empire Day. But take a look at the faces of the children in the photograph. None of them look happy at all. They've all been dressed up, stood there, and they're doing as they're told. And Pete's mum, well, her face could tell 1,000 stories, couldn't it? Yeah. So she was born in 1908, and she lived in Cypress Street, which is just by. Have you heard of Loop Knitting? It's a famous shop, actually, at the Angel in Islington in London. And she lived just by that. And my mum lived 6 minutes. So 3 minutes. And they would have known each other, I'm sure. But no, because there's 18 years difference between my mum and Pete's mum. Her dad moved from Chester in Cheshire, which is the north of England, to become a Grenadier Guard. And you know what? In 1911, they had 6 children, mum and dad, and they lived in 2 rooms. It was tough, wasn't it? Very tough. I looked in the, my book of what was going on at that time when Grace was born. And the suffragettes were all marching. They were being force-fed in prison. I know some of you are doing the crochets, dolls of them. Yes, that was the year when Grace was born, all that was happening. They also brought in the old age pension. They decided they were going to give an old age pension. You had to be 70. And it was, how much was it? I think it was 7 shillings, something like that. And you had to qualify for it. Yes, age was one qualification, but if you were an imbecile, no, you didn't qualify. If you were in prison, no, you didn't qualify. If you were a pauper, you didn't qualify. And if you feather bedded, you didn't qualify. And I had to look up what feather bedding meant. And what that meant was that if there was a job created, but there wasn't a real job, I suppose we'd call it now job for the boys. But, they were sort of making a job when there wasn't really a job needed. No, you didn't get a pension then. Interruption. I think that could be an outtake. He's just told me that he's put the corn up with the chickens. So there we are. They were living in 2 rooms and life was tough. In 1917, Grace's dad died. So she was only a little dot, and in the same week as he died, her sister was born, the baby of the family, Auntie Ivy. And so it was 5 years later that her mum died, and Auntie Ada brought them all up. So there was all these children, and they all just pulled together. Probably brought themselves up and with Auntie Ada's help. I've spoken about Auntie Ada. I've read you the story about her parrot. Well, Pete's story. Anyway, I better stop waffling or this will go on and on. But I thought you'd like to see that photo. Right, so I'm going to put Mum's piece up now and I'll see you the other side of that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mum's going to play the piano for us later, aren't you, Mum?
Yes.
Yes. And we were just trying to work out how Mum learnt to play the piano. It was your dad buying you a piano on the Never Never, as you call it, which was brand spanking new then, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a lovely, beautiful piano.
Was it?
Yes.
And so you were just teaching yourself, or did you have a few lessons?
No, I never had lessons.
Never?
I did well at school because I had the most lovely music teacher. And of course I was in the choir. So she always would sit, anybody who was doing all right and was interested, she would sit with you and describe what you were going to sing and the notes, the different keys. So I knew the different keys.
Oh, righty-ho. So you had a sort of inkling. Yes. And then, of course, though, in the war, you sent to Scotland, weren't you?
Yes.
And you left your piano behind.
Yes.
Vaguely, you've got a recollection of maybe having a piano in Scotland, but you can't think too much about it.
No, I think it was an old pub piano, but it was horrible.
And then, of course, when you came back from Scotland in the war, your mum died, but you met Dad, you got married in 44, didn't you?
Yes.
And then, by that time you were 18, you could go in a pub, and you were telling me you lived in Drayton Park.
Yes.
Which was quite...
Oh, it was a lovely road where we lived.
Yeah.
And at the top of the road was Drayton Park Underground, which was lovely. So you could just nip up the road, and we were at that end near there. But at the other end was a lovely little family pub, where we used to go on a Friday night. We'd come home from work and have a bit of tea, and then go down about 8 o'clock. We never stayed late. So I never saw anybody that was over the limit or not rowdy, behaving. No,
it was a nice atmosphere.
It was a lovely atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then I'd sit and play the piano, and everybody would sing and all the old songs, and it was just a lovely hour because we'd get back not late because we had work the next morning on the Saturday morning.
Well, it sounds lovely. But you did worry a bit, didn't you, that you might hit a duff note?
Yes, but because everybody was joining in the singing, it didn't really, it didn't worry me at all, you know. But it was just a lovely hour there with friends, and because we went every Friday, most of the people that also went at the same time, so we knew it was a friendly atmosphere. It was lovely.
But then, of course, after you had me and then you moved to Harlow, playing of the piano then. We didn't have a piano in our little flat, did we, in Tottenham?
No.
Which we're going to talk about shortly in episodes coming up, moving to Southgate. And the first thing you did was get a piano. And it was a grotty old piano. But it was a piano,
It was lovely.
And of course, I just then started doing that, and
you
had lessons. I learned as well. So so you're going to play for us a bit of a special song for you.
And also, when you had lessons, I went to have lessons, and your piano teacher used to slap my hand when I played the wrong note because I could not get on with the music.
So you only had the one lesson, I think, just a few, wasn't it, Mum?
Yes.
Wasn't for you?
I think it was just one or 2 weeks, just to see how I would get on. But I didn't take to it.
Neither did I. Not at all. But I did it for years, didn't I? Right up till I was married. Right up till I was married. From 11.
Yes.
So there we are. So you're going to play us Let Me Call You Sweetheart. What else do you play, Mum? Daisy, Daisy?
Well, I That's what I played last time,
No,
wasn't
but
it?
no, it's going up now.
Oh, it's going up
Yes,
now.
yes.
Yes.
It didn't go out last
Yes,
week.
it was Daisy.
Yes.
And she was a sweet little dicky bird, and
Well,
that was all those sort of songs that we used to
that everybody used to sing. And you said that the children outside the pub, even when you were playing
Yes.
it, they would play hopscotch to it. And
Yes, that's right.
you'd play those games in the playground.
They might have known the words as well as anybody that was in the pub then, because everybody would sing them.
Yeah.
They would be on the radio, and
yes,
it was just lovely. It was
so there are
lovely
3 songs
atmosphere.
that mean a lot to you that were sung a lot when you were young.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll say cheerio then.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you joined in the sing-song. So that's it for this week. Thank you very much for joining me, and thank you for all your comments. I just so love them. Everybody says that, but it's true. They're really lovely. Thank you. And I'm going to put up a little film now of our trip to Goodnestone Park. Last week it was the photographs of the flowers. This week you're just coming on a little walk round with me. Well, with us actually, because I'm 2 steps behind Pete. So he's in most of it, walking along, doing his birding, you know. Have a lovely time. Enjoy your crafting. Enjoy whatever you're doing. Enjoy this lovely weather. So I'll see you soon. Bye.